Cloud provider comparisons, AWS versus Azure versus Google Cloud Platform. We're going to look at this from a tech certifications perspective. We're now going to get into the ring. In this corner, we have AWS. In the other corner, we have Azure. And the other corner, we're going to have Google Cloud. I am your referee for today. Normally, I'm your lead tech career coach at JumpStart IT Academy, but today I'm going to be the referee. But at JumpStartITAcademy.com, we offer 30-minute coaching sessions and an hour coaching sessions. We assist those who are new to the tech industry who want to enter the tech industry, and we also assist those who are existing professionals coming from a different industry but want to combine tech with what they already know, and we allow them, or we give them the tools and abilities and the instruction and counselor coaching to transition into the lucrative technology industry. Let's go ahead and get started. Cloud provider comparisons, AWS versus Azure versus GCP tech certifications. We're first going to start off looking at AWS certifications. We're going to look at the levels and the paths. Don't worry if you don't understand these terms. I'm going to ensure that you are familiar with these terms. AWS. Now, when people enter the technology industry, sometimes they have the assumption that if they get a certification, they're going to be able to make a whole lot of money and everything's going to be great and gravy. But that's not really the case. Let's look at what AWS says about their own certification. It says here, validate technical skills and cloud expertise to grow your career in business. Now, if you look at that text that they describe there, notice that nowhere does it say that you're going to get a job or you're guaranteed a job. No one can really guarantee you a job. A certification essentially equips you so that you are marketable. But there is a difference between being marketable, meaning having the validation or the credentials to prove that you know something, tech knowledge, versus tech skills or having a brand or marketing yourself. So just understand, in business, there's a difference between being marketable and marketing. It's no different than if you made widgets and now you made the widgets. If you don't let other people know you made the widgets and then they have to make the decision whether they want to buy your widgets or not, well, they won't know unless you tell them. So being marketable gives you the ability to gain credibility in a marketplace, but nonetheless, you still have to persuade people to understand that what you know in your head, you can apply in real life. AWS certification levels and paths. So we're going to look at the levels and paths. With AWS, as you can tell, it's all on one page. When we move forward and we look at Microsoft or we look at Google Cloud Platform, what you're going to notice is that it gets a little bit more complex. But let's look at it from this perspective: levels and paths. The reason I want to explain this to you is because I want you to think like I think when it comes to technology. I want you to be able to break things down. What I'm explaining to you today in terms of reviewing and researching certifications and looking at and comparing them is the work underneath the work. This is the work that no one really talks about because it's administrative. It may not be as exciting as preparing and taking your certification, but nonetheless, this is the preparation for your tech career. If you don't do this preparation, you will be ill prepared. I like to consider preparation as the work underneath the work. So let's get to work. The levels A, B, and C. So level A, and you'll notice here that there is level A, level B, and level C, and level D. So with AWS certification, there are 4 levels. Within those 4 levels, you'll notice that there are paths. Let's look at the levels and the paths. Level A is called foundational. That's just the name that AWS gives their level. Now, within the foundational level, if you want to start off in AWS, you need to take the foundational level because that is the foundation. So Cloud Practitioner is the foundation for this particular certification. So as someone gets certified as a Cloud Practitioner, they can continue on in their career and move forward to level B. Level B is called the associate level. On the associate level, I want you to notice something. There are 3 separate paths. Path 1 is architect, path 2 is operation, and path 3 is developer. Solutions architect, SysOps administrator, or developer. Now, if you go the pathway of becoming an architect, what you'll find is that you only have one path to take, which is solutions architect if you wanted to go to level C, professional level, which is the next level. But if you want to go the operations route or the developer route, you'll notice that there is only one path for both of these two paths if you decide to go from cloud practitioner to operations or developer. Now, from operations or developer, you can take the DevOps engineer certification. Once you pass this certification, DevOps engineer or the solutions architecture path, then you can consider the specialty path. The specialty path allows you to specialize. There's advanced networking, data analytics, there's database, there's machine learning, and there's also security. I want you to look here that this path right here is structured, but yet this path is unstructured, meaning that you can choose whatever specialty you want and you don't have any rigid structured path that you need to take. You can become specialized in advanced networking and then continue on to take data analytics. And I'm sure you will be respected, not necessarily if you were specialized in advanced networking, you have the experience to back it up. But if you got data analytics, it would just show that you had general skills if you didn't have any hands-on abilities. Now, that's the difference between having tech skills and tech knowledge. If you're skilled in networking and you have the background and the work to prove it, and you get data analytics, you just have a general understanding. Now, you will be respected and it may boost your salary, but nonetheless, it's going to give you credibility and people will respect you, especially when you're in an environment where data analytics is being utilized and you have a networking background, but yet you can sit in the room and answer complex questions or ask complex questions. Microsoft Azure certification levels and paths. At this point, we're going to take a look at Microsoft Azure. Microsoft Azure certification. Let's see what Microsoft says about their certification. As I said before, when you start looking at certifications, I would suggest that you don't look at it from the perspective of your wants, needs, and desires. Look at it from the perspective of the certification provider, meaning what are they saying about themselves? Because essentially when you get a certification, the company is essentially telling another company which you're vying for a job or an opportunity, this cloud certification provider is basically vouching that you know something, that they're vouching for your tech knowledge, but they will not vouch for your technical skills, meaning that you have to be able to prove your skills and convince the employer that you have the skills. Therefore, you'll notice that when these companies talk about their certifications, they don't guarantee jobs, nor do they put you in a position where you would be favored for a job. That's something you would have to do. Like I said, the tech skills, the tech knowledge that you gain from certifications will make you marketable. But nonetheless, there's a difference between being marketable and marketing. You still have to market your skills. You still have to influence and convince other employers to hire you even after you have these tech skills. So let's see what Microsoft says. Earn certifications that show you're keeping pace with today's technical roles and requirements. Select a job role or to discover certification paths. Nowhere in there does it say that you are going to be guaranteed a job. So let's go ahead and get that out of your mind. If you see me hitting the nail with the hammer continuously as I'm driving home a point, I need you to get this through your mind to understand that this is simply work underneath the work. This is preparation for you to build that credibility within the technology marketplace so you can compete for jobs, but it doesn't mean that you'll win if you compete. Microsoft Azure certification levels. Now, I want you to notice that previously when I was talking about levels, when I use when I use AWS, for the levels, I use labels of lettering. And then within the paths, I use numbers. But in this particular case, I'm using numbers for the levels for Microsoft. And then you'll notice that I use lettering to describe the paths that Microsoft has. Now, I want you to get insight and look into my mind and to think like I think. I pretty much structure it based on what will make it easier for me to consume the information, understand the information, and comprehend what level I want to go to and what path that I want to take. And I want you to be equipped with that level of knowledge. That's why I'm not just going to lay this information on you. I'm going to actually tell you how I think, which is why I labeled all these things. And I'm going to talk about the labeling, even though I'm talking about certifications, because I want you to not only get a certification, but be able to organize and manage further certifications as you go forward in your tech career. So there's four certifications, or excuse me, there's four levels of certifications with Microsoft Azure. There is number one, Microsoft Certified Fundamentals. Microsoft Certified Associate is number two. Microsoft Certified Expert is number three. And Microsoft Certified Specialty is number four. The Microsoft Azure certification pass A through H. Now, you'll look at this picture, it's quite small. I understand that. I'm not expecting you to put on your bifocals to be able to glean any information from this. I just want to show you the structuring A through H, and then what I did was I'm going to take them one by one or combine them so you can actually see them. Now, this is not a deep dive into Microsoft Azure certifications, nor is it a deep dive to Google Cloud Platform or AWS. I'm simply allowing you to compare these cloud provider certifications so that it can aid you in your decision making as far as what certification do you want to take if you're contemplating taking a cloud certification. So let's go ahead and get into it. Microsoft Azure certification path A. Let's look at the architect. Now, it's like I said, I'm not going to go through the details of this, but the architect certification path A is architect. Now let's go to the next slide. Architect certification path B through D. Data science, data engineering, and database admin. If you need to pause it, take a quick picture, or if you need to pause it and analyze it and write something down, go ahead and do that. That would be a good idea to do right now. Continuing. AWS certification path E through F. Developer and DevOps. Microsoft Azure Architect certification path G through H, security and artificial intelligence. Now, I got this information from a Cloud Guru, Azure certification guide. So if you go ahead and check out their platform, I'm not going to vouch for them because I'm not familiar with them in terms of I've never taken any training from them. But nonetheless, this Azure certification guide and me taking some of these clips from it was very beneficial for me to convey this information to you. So let's take a look at Google Cloud certification levels and paths. The same way we looked at AWS and the same way that we looked at Microsoft Azure, we're going to take the same look at Google Cloud Platform, and we're going to look at the levels and the paths. Remember, the labels that I put on them are for me to guide myself through these certifications. Google Cloud certification levels A through C. So there's basically three levels with the Google Cloud certification. Now let's see what Google says about their certification. Google Cloud certifications validate your expertise and showcase your ability to transform businesses with Google Cloud technology. Now, nowhere does it say you're guaranteed a job or anything like that. It's just something very generic for them to say that it validates your tech knowledge. They acknowledge that you have knowledge. And it allows you to showcase your ability to transform businesses, meaning that they have this knowledge, and if you allow them to work for you, they can transform your business with Google Cloud technology. They're not necessarily vouching for you, they're vouching for the knowledge that you should have if you completed their certification. Google Cloud certification level A through B. Level A is foundational, level B is associate. Google Cloud certification level C is professional. Google Cloud certification path number 1. Now we're going to look at the paths. So let's look at level A, foundational level, and let's look at the path available with this level A foundational level. Cloud Digital Engineer. Just like AWS, you'll notice that the Cloud Digital Engineer is the foundation. There's only one certification. So in other words, everyone starts in the same place. If you see someone that's very skilled in their craft and dealing with cloud computing, just understand if you're looking at them, they've got 15 years or 10 years that they've been doing it. Don't get intimidated by that. Just understand that they had to start somewhere and you have to start somewhere. Don't eat the whole elephant in one bite. Just understand that the elephant needs to be eaten in several bites. Now, I don't know why you're eating the elephant, but nonetheless, that's just an example I'm giving, but enjoy your elephant. Let's continue. Google Cloud certification path number 2. Associate. This is the level B associate, but this is path number 2 within level B, and it is cloud engineer. Let's continue. Google Cloud Certification Path 3 through 9, and that is within the level C, professional level. You have the data engineer, you have the cloud architect, you have the cloud developer, you have the cloud security engineer, you have the collaboration engineer, you have the cloud DevOps engineer, and the machine learning engineer. So at this point, there's a breakaway at the professional level for Google Cloud Platform, meaning that when you get to the professional level, now it's time to specialize. It's similar to AWS when they showed you their specialty, whereas with professional, with Google, you can clearly see that there are several paths that you can take, 7 paths that you can take to specialize in. It doesn't mean that once you specialize in something, you can't specialize in something else. No different than when I explained AWS, but nonetheless, it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot to recertify. So make sure you know what you're doing, and before you make that large investment, either in a boot camp, community college, or a college, or wherever you choose to get training, to go ahead and move forward with your cloud certification. Google Cloud Certification Path number 10, hybrid multi-cloud. This is essentially the walk on water certification. This is you having all this experience in cloud, and now you can walk on water. That's just pretty much, I'm just giving you a figurative example to understand that at this level, you're going to be highly regarded, respected, and highly esteemed by an organization or a company. And you not only have the experience to prove it, but now you have the tech skills and the tech knowledge. So when you enter meetings, people are either going to be intimidated, highly relying upon your skill set and your knowledge and your input, and you'll be highly respected. Comparing certification levels. What I wanted to do here is I wanted to combine all 3 of them so you can just see them right there, right in your face. We call this a dashboard. So let's go ahead and look at this dashboard. The foundational level, intermediate level, and advanced level, these are just general descriptions of the levels. But within these general descriptions, I'm going to tell you what AWS or Microsoft calls their particular level. So foundational, AWS calls that a cloud practitioner. Microsoft Azure calls their foundational level fundamentals. Google Cloud calls their foundational level cloud digital leader. Now, at the intermediate level, you'll notice that all of them call their intermediate level certification associate. Now, let's look at the advanced level. AWS calls theirs professional. Microsoft Azure calls theirs expert. And Google Cloud calls their advanced level certification professional. You'll notice that there's also another level which we consider the specialty level. AWS calls their specialty, Microsoft also calls their specialty, and Google Cloud calls theirs expert. And we just went over that. Comparing certification average salaries. Now, I know this is something you want to get into because a lot of people like to make decisions based on how much money they can make. I would not suggest that you just simply limit your decision making just simply on how much money you can make, but limit it based on a little bit more research than that. Cloud provider comparisons, AWS versus Azure versus GCP. We're looking at it from a tech certifications perspective. Just wanted to give you a summary real quick before we move forward. Now, AWS, we're looking at the salary. The average salary for the cloud practitioner level is $89,000. For the associate level for Microsoft AWS, it is $155,000. And for the professional level for AWS, it is $161,000. We're not going to go into the specialty section or the specialty level because that's beyond the scope of this particular video. Let's move forward. Microsoft Azure, the average salary for the fundamentals is $126,000. The average salary for an associate of Microsoft Azure is $125,000, and the average salary for Microsoft Azure expert is $152,000. Now let's take a look at Google Cloud. Google Cloud, the foundational level is cloud digital leader. And if you have that, the average salary that you can make is $110,000. For the associate level for Google Cloud is $130,000, and for the professional level is $180,000. Now that's a lot of money, but do take into consideration that at this level, you pretty much put in a lot of work and you have a lot of experience as well. So don't think that these big numbers mean that you're going to make this amount of money. You still got to work for it. Let's take a look at all of these average salaries on a dashboard. AWS, the cloud practitioner, $89,000. The average salary for Microsoft Azure at that same level of fundamentals is $126,000. And the average salary for the cloud digital leader, which is the foundational level for Google Cloud, 110,000. So if you're looking at the starting gate, how much I can make, and that's what I'm going to go for. This is how I'm going to make my decision. No problem. I think your decision is pretty simple at this point, Microsoft Azure, because they have an average salary which is higher than the other average salary, which is $126,000. But nonetheless, we're going to move forward. AWS associate, 155,000. Microsoft Azure, 125,000 at the associate level, and Google Cloud at the associate level is 130,000. At AWS professional level is 161,000. The average salary for Microsoft Azure at the expert level is 152,000, and Google Cloud professional level, which is the advanced level, is $180,000. Now, if you were making a decision based on how much what the cloud certification can pay you the most in the beginning, it would be Microsoft. But in the end, if you're looking to have more long-term financial success, it looks like the Google Cloud professional certification would be something you should consider. Certification exams, let's look at languages and retirement dates. Now, the reason we're going to take a look at the languages and retirement date is because many people from different companies different countries could be watching this video. And I want you to keep in mind that when you're looking at these certifications, make sure that the language you speak, they have a certification for it. Otherwise, you should consider a certification that has the language that you speak, that you're familiar with, because some of the challenges with a lot of foreign speaking, when technology first began and they started putting out certifications, most of the exams were in English, because most of the companies that were creating these great conglomerate, big giant, technology companies were from English speaking or Western nations. So therefore the certifications were in English. And what happened is a lot of people were having difficulty, even though they could understand the technology and apply it, they were having difficulties passing the test. So that's why language is important. If you're wondering, why are we going over language? It's important because there's a lot of people from different places, and they need to make sure they don't put down some money and then they don't have the test in their language. So let's look at Microsoft AWS. You can see the languages that are available for Microsoft AWS. You can see the languages the tests are in for AWS, not Microsoft AWS. Don't get that mixed up. I did. You see Microsoft Azure. You can see the languages that are available. Google Cloud, you can see that there's 3 languages for Google Cloud. So if you're coming from a nation and you don't speak that particular language, Google Cloud may be off your list, even though that in the long term, its certification pays the most. If you can't speak the language of the test that the test is in, then it's going to be very difficult for you to even get access to that money. So AWS, the retirement date is 3 years. Microsoft Azure, there's no retirement date for the first foundational certification, AZ900, but for the other certifications, it's 1 year. For Google Cloud Digital Leader, the foundational certification for Google Cloud is 3 years, and then it expires. And then for the others, it's 2 years. The reason it's important that you understand the retirement date is because you need to be firm on what path you're going to go and what certification you're going to take, because taking certifications is like getting on a treadmill. And you need to make sure you can keep pace with the certification, because you may think, well, 3 years is a long time, no problem, I'll get this and I'll be good. But what happens is you'll start working on projects, or the time it takes for you to find an opportunity, apply your craft, and then you start getting into that job and things start going well, and you may forget that you need to recertify. Now, the job that you're at may not require for you to recertify, but I would strongly suggest that you always keep certified in your area of specialty, in that one skill that you choose, because your job may fire you, but the market, you still want to be marketable to the market, so that if you lose your job, you can still regain employment, and that your tech career is in your hands and in your power, and you can choose the opportunities that's going to set you apart from the rest of the people who are certified in this particular cloud cloud certification. Certification exams. Let's look at exam providers. The reason we want to look at exam providers is because if you don't have a particular exam provider in your area, you may need to take a plane. You may need to take a train. You may need to take a car. You may need to stay overnight. You never really know. So it's good to know exam providers, because if the exam provider for your particular cloud certification is not in your area, you want to make sure that you can make plans and arrangements so that you can be in that particular area and take that exam. So for in-person proctoring, there's Pearson VUE and PSI for AWS. Microsoft Azure has Pearson VUE and Certi Port, and Google Cloud has Criterion for their in-person proctoring of tests. AWS provides online proctoring at Pearson VUE and PSI. Microsoft Azure provides Pearson VUE and PSI, but that is conditional. So check back with Microsoft on that. And Google Cloud, both of their in-person proctoring and online proctoring is provided by Criterion. Now, when I tell you to go check back and validate this information, I mean, after you watch this video, it may be 2-3 years from when it was produced. So, and even if it wasn't, you still need to go to the website and do your own research, because these certifications, like I said, it's like being on a treadmill. They're constantly changing. So I could put a video out right now, and then the next day, the certification could have changed. Why? Because the company is changing. Technology is changing. So the companies who produce these certifications like AWS, Microsoft Azure, or Google Cloud, what they're going to do is they're going to change with change. So they won't be changed. And so therefore you're going to have to adjust, and you're going to have to change so that you don't get changed by change. But you can have control over change by planning. That's the power of planning. Certification exams, exam duration and price. So for AWS at the foundational level, the exam duration is 90 minutes. The price is $100. The duration and the price for the Microsoft Azure is 45 minutes and $99. For Google Cloud, the duration is 90 minutes and the price is $99. The intermediate level, AWS is 130 minutes without labs, and it costs $150. Microsoft Azure, 100 minutes without labs and $165. For Google Cloud, 120 minutes and $125 for the exam. And for the advanced level, AWS has 170 to 180 minutes. Expert or associate labs are associates with labs, and the cost is $300. For Microsoft Azure, at the advanced level, the test is 120 minutes in duration with labs, and the cost or the price for it is $165. For Google Cloud, the duration for their test at the advanced level is 120 minutes, and the cost is $200. I'm giving you this information so that you can add up the cost for your exam, so that you can stay within your budget. Now, you're going to have to still figure out if you're going to go to a community college, a boot camp. You're going to do self-teaching, and then find labs for you to do to prepare yourself for these exams. But nonetheless, the entry cost to get the exams, that's set. That's final. You have to pay that ticket. That's the price of admission for you to get into the testing room. So keep that in mind. You may have flexibility in terms of budgeting and controlling your budget when it comes to how you will prep for the test, but nonetheless, this is the price of entry into the certification test room, and that's just how it is. And also, as I said previously about keeping in touch with these certifications and these cloud certifications platforms and changes in certification criteria, it's vitally important. It can change, so you need to be prepared for that change and adjust accordingly. Certification exams, the retake policies. This is also highly important as well. So for AWS, the retake delay is 14 days, meaning if you didn't pass the exam, you have 14 days to take it again. And the retake limit is none, meaning that every 14 days, if you didn't pass it, you can take it over and over and over every 14 days. For Microsoft Azure, the retake delay is 1 day after the first fail and 14 days afterwards. There's 5 attempts in terms of the retake limit per year. Therefore, let's say you were taking, or someone was taking a Microsoft Azure exam and they didn't pass it. Well, the day after they did not pass it, they can go and cram knowledge into their head and figure out their weak points and strengthen themselves. And then the very next day they can take the test. But if they failed that very next day, then they have to take it, then they have to wait 14 days afterwards. And that would be essentially 2 attempts. So they have 3 attempts left. And so the span of time most likely would be 14 days within those 3 testing periods, and then the max is 5. So if you invested, look, you need to understand that these certifications to go to these boot camps or whatever method that you choose to get the information or the knowledge in your head, it could cost between $1,000 to $20,000, depending on the training venue or the training methodology that you choose. Now, just imagine someone paying $20,000 to go to a boot camp, and then they attempt 5 times and don't pass. Yes, that $20,000 is gone, because especially if the next year Microsoft has retired a certification, that means that the certification you took has expired and the knowledge in your head is expiring, which means that you're going to be in a very tough situation, especially if they don't even have the test available by the time you're allowed to start retaking the test. That means that you paid $20,000 and you don't have a certification to prove that you invested that much money into learning it. But nonetheless, you can go ahead and move forward with finding a cheaper method or a more cost-effective method to get your skills built up to take the next version of the exam. Keep that in mind. This is why I tell people to plan. The power of planning is incredible, and you can't underestimate the power of planning. If you do, you're going to get devoured by this industry. Google Cloud. The retake delay is 14 days after the first fail, and 60 days after the second fail, and 360 days after the third fail. That's the retake delay. If you'll notice that in this retake delay, after the third fail, you're done. You have to wait 365 days after your third fail. That's a whole year. So if you look at the retake limits for Google Cloud, basically you're in a situation where you're limited by the delay. Therefore, it's all, they bake their retake limits within their retake delay. Keep that in mind. So when you analyze this right here and you're looking at AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud, if the retake delay and the retake limits is too risky for your taste, then go ahead and make your decision based on that, because you don't want to be in a situation where you lose out on an opportunity, especially after making a large investment into your tech career. Certification exams. Recertification exam type. Recertification exam type, AWS has the normal exam, meaning that if you need to recertify, let's say you pass the AWS test, depending, it doesn't matter whether it's foundational or intermediate or advanced, you pass that exam. After you pass that exam, after 3 years, you're going to have to certify using the normal exam pathway. In other words, you're going to have to take that updated exam, or perhaps even the same exam again, to validate and prove that you still know what you're doing. Microsoft Azure, the recertification exam type is free online exam, and it's focused on updated technology. If you want to ask my opinion, you say, Chris, what's your opinion? What do you think about Microsoft Azure's method? I think it's awesome. My goodness. I mean, let's say you invested $20,000 to learn Microsoft Azure, and you're keeping pace in your career, and your career is going fast and everything is going really well, but then you have to still maintain your certifications like with AWS or Google Cloud. You're really going to have to go through the rigors in the same studying process or similar studying process that you did when you took the exam the last time. But with Microsoft, they just want you to be updated with the skill sets that are the technologies that they've added to the certification, and the exam is free. Whereas with AWS and Google Cloud, you're going to have to still pay the same amount of money. So if you're making a decision as far as how much money you have to invest to recertify, and that's going to be your decision point, then you can clearly see that Microsoft Azure would be the Google Cloud platform that you should select. Final thoughts. All right, so let's take a look at this. I want to tell you that I see certifications like a treadmill. I said that. I'm gonna give you another analogy. I see certifications as the fire-breathing dragon. Now, you can plan and prepare, and you could slay a dragon, but nonetheless, you still have to plan and prepare. Now, if you've been in this industry for 10 years, 25 years, one day, guess what? You still have to slay the fire-breathing dragon. If you've already had a certification, if this is your first time getting certified, guess what? You still have to slay the dragon. There's one thing about fire-breathing dragons. They breathe fire. And if you aren't prepared to slay the dragon, just like if you aren't prepared to slay the certification exam, you're going to get burned. And I'm giving you tips so you can avoid getting burnt. Start thinking about these tips so you can go in there in the certification testing room or approach your certification with the attitude that I'm going to slay the dragon. Which cloud certification is best for me, Chris? I really can't answer that question for you straightforwardly. You have a blank slate. What I'm doing is I'm giving you the ability to work through the knowledge, because you got to think about it. It's your career. It's your tech journey. I don't know what your criteria is. I don't know what your goal is for your career. There's a lot that I don't know. We haven't had a coaching call. If you need this type of help, go ahead and schedule a session, a 30-minute session or an hour session. But nonetheless, here are some questions that you can ask yourself. Number one, what are my career goals? Meaning you got to start looking about your salary. You got to look at the budget that you want to have for your exam. You got to look at your career opportunities. And just like I showed you the recertification, the testing centers, and the languages, all these things are something you should be looking at when you make a decision as far as what cloud platform that you're going to select to take your certification in. Number two, what technical skills and abilities are employees looking for in candidates? You got to do that research on your own. Go ahead and use the power of Google or use the power of networking and talk to people. Get an understanding and keep your pulse or keep your finger on the pulse of the industry so that you don't end up in a situation where your career is dead and the industry is alive. Number three, have I researched to identify which cloud technologies that businesses are using? Now, what I've laid out for you today is actually the three top cloud providers that are out there. Number one is AWS, number two is Azure, and number three is Google Cloud. So I pretty much done that work for you, but nonetheless, keep a pulse on the cloud industry so that you know if AWS gets defeated. If you find that out, then maybe you want to switch and find out another path for your career to go so you can stand in this industry for a long term and have success long term. Number four, have I talked to professionals who have earned these certifications? Get out there and start talking to people. Start engaging in conversations with people. Now, I say that because if I tell you that the certification exams are like slaying a dragon, wouldn't it be beneficial for you to talk to someone who's already slayed a dragon? This way you can get tips and ideas on how you can slay a dragon. You can visualize yourself doing the same thing, or you can go and walk in their footsteps. That seems to be the best choice for me. I've heard it said that it's good to learn from your own experience, but it's better to learn from other people's experience, especially when it comes to slaying dragons. Thank you for watching this video. Go ahead and like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. This is JumpStart IT Academy. Go to jumpstartitacademy.com. We offer a free course, the top 10 myths of the IT industry. We also offer 30-minute and 1-hour coaching sessions. Get skilled in IT over a college degree. And remember, at JumpStart IT Academy, the start of your start is more important than the race. Go get on the fast track to IT. I'll see you in the next video.